Alara Voss, and I am 34 years old. I was sent away, replaced, and written off. But I refused to vanish quietly. In a world where influence, strategy, and subtle power rule everything, I learned that strength is not always about staying. Sometimes, it is about stepping back long enough to reclaim everything you deserve. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and the quiet force of an unstoppable mind. Before you continue, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Stories like this reach people who are silently enduring betrayal, exclusion, and emotional manipulation, and your support helps these stories travel to those who need them most. The message arrived at exactly 9:14 a.m., just as I was stepping out of the glass doors of the global consulting firm where I worked. The building reflected the city skyline like a mirror, steel, ambition movement. I had just wrapped up a high-stakes client call, my mind still sharp with strategy and deadlines, when my phone vibrated once in my palm. "Come home immediately," the message read. "This concerns your marriage." I stopped walking. Around me, the city continued as if nothing had happened. Cars honked impatiently. Heels struck pavement in sharp rhythms. People spoke into wireless earpieces, negotiating deals, complaining about traffic, laughing without restraint. Life moved forward with careless certainty, but I felt suddenly disconnected from all of it, as if I were standing behind glass. The sender was Mara, my mother-in-law. "What now?" I whispered under my breath. During the drive home, my thoughts spiraled. For 4 years, I had lived in that house with my husband, Ethan, believing we were building something solid. Our marriage wasn't dramatic or loud. There were no explosive arguments, no public scenes. Instead, there was restraint. Silence. Politeness, even when things were strained. I had believed that meant maturity. Now I wasn't so sure. The gated estate appeared ahead, pristine and orderly. As I parked, my chest tightened. The house looked exactly the same, but something about it felt distant, like a place I had already been erased from. Inside the living room, Mara sat upright on the leather sofa, her posture impeccable, her tablet resting neatly on her lap. She looked composed, prepared. Ethan stood near the window, arms crossed, staring outside as if avoiding the inevitable. "You asked me to come," I said calmly. "I'm here." Mara looked up slowly, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Sit." I remained standing. "What is this about?" She exhaled, controlled and deliberate. "You have failed as a wife." The words struck with surgical precision. "In what way?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "You have not given my son a child. You have not given this home peace." Her tone was smooth, rehearsed, like a corporate evaluation delivered without emotion. I turned to Ethan. "Is this how you feel?" He said nothing. Mara stood, placing her tablet aside. "You will leave this house today." My breath caught. "Leave, as in temporarily?" "No," she replied. "As in permanently." Before I could respond, the front door opened. A woman stepped inside. She was well-dressed, composed, and unmistakably confident. She moved as though she had rehearsed this moment, her presence calm and unchallenged. Mara gestured toward her without hesitation. "Meet Lena," she said. "My son's new wife." The room tilted. Lena smiled first. Her smile was polished, professional, almost warm, but there was something beneath it. A quiet certainty. An assurance that she belonged here now. I searched Ethan's face, desperate for protest, shock, anything. He stared at the floor. You can't just," my voice faltered. Mara adjusted her tablet again, her patience thinning. "We've discussed this long enough. You are no longer part of this household." Ethan finally spoke, his voice low and strained. "Alara, my mother has made her decision." I stared at him. "And you agreed?" "I didn't," he said weakly. You have until tonight to collect your things," Mara interrupted. "Lena will take your place in this home. It is best to accept it gracefully." Gracefully. I had imagined heartbreak. I had imagined confrontation. But not this cold, calculated replacement. And yet, beneath the shock, something unexpected stirred inside me. Awareness. As I turned to leave, Lena's eyes met mine. There was no apology in them. No triumph either. Just calm acknowledgement. I am here now. My apartment felt hollow when I arrived. Every familiar object seemed displaced, as though I were seeing my life from a distance. The keys to my car rested on the counter like proof of exile. My phone buzzed constantly, messages from colleagues, friends, even Ethan, who still hadn't called directly. I collapsed onto the sofa, my head in my hands. The truth settled heavily. I still had my career. my income, my independence. But my marriage, my home, had been erased without discussion. And yet, amid the grief, clarity emerged. I would not beg. I would not plead. I would not disappear. My phone lit up again. It was Nora, my closest friend. "Are you okay?" she asked. I typed slowly. I was removed from my home. Mara brought another woman into my marriage. I don't even know how to process this. She called immediately. "Ilara, listen to me," Nora said firmly. "You are not powerless. You still have your mind, your work, your reputation. This is not the end." That night, as I packed a small bag to stay temporarily at Nora's place, my thoughts replayed Lena's smile and Mara's certainty. Something told me Lena wasn't just there to replace me. She was there to control. I clenched my fist. I had navigated complex corporate crises before. And now, my marriage itself had become the challenge. The next morning, I returned to work. I attended meetings, reviewed reports, signed documents. Externally, I was composed. Internally, I was calculating. Every interaction became data. Every conversation a clue. At lunch, Nora joined me at a quiet cafe. "This is bigger than Mara," she said. "And bigger than Lena. It's about control." Ethan's silence. Lena's ambition. "I don't understand Ethan," I admitted. "He never defends me." "Maybe he avoids conflict," Nora replied. "Or maybe he's been conditioned to obey. Either way, you need to observe before acting." That night, I began documenting everything: conversations, reactions, timelines. I replayed every detail, training my mind the way I always had. Fear didn't keep me awake. Strategy did. Back at the duplex, Lena was settling in. At first, her presence was subtle, placing objects just right, greeting Mara with warmth, learning routines. Over time, her confidence grew. Staff whispered about her charm. Mara watched her closely. "She is promise," Mara told Ethan one evening. "Pliable. Accommodating." Ethan said nothing. Meanwhile, I observed quietly. I did not contact Ethan. I gathered information instead: social media posts, mutual acquaintances, subtle changes in professional circles. Then Nora uncovered something important. "Lena has connections," she said. "Influential ones. She's trained for environments like this." So she wasn't just replacing me. She was consolidating power. That realization shifted everything. This was no longer about returning to a house. It was about reclaiming agency. And I would do it slowly, deliberately, silently. The following days passed with deceptive calm. On the surface, my life appeared stable. I went to work on time. I delivered presentations. I smiled during meetings. Colleagues praised my composure, unaware that every polite exchange masked a mind in constant motion. I had been trained to manage crises, to read between silences, to spot power shifts before they became obvious. Now, I applied those same instincts to my own life. I did not call Ethan. I did not confront Mara. I did not message Lena. Instead, I watched. From a distance, I studied patterns. Who spoke to whom? Who went quiet? Who suddenly became visible? Silence, I had learned, often spoke louder than confrontation. Back at the duplex, Lena was settling into her new role with remarkable efficiency. At first, she made herself small, never imposing, never questioning. She observed routines, learned preferences, and adjusted herself accordingly. To the staff, she was gracious. To Mara, she was attentive. To Ethan, she was calm and accommodating, never demanding more than he was ready to give. Mara watched her like an investor monitoring a promising asset. "She understands structure," Mara remarked one evening. "She doesn't disrupt order." Ethan nodded absently, though something about the word order unsettled him. The house felt quieter but not lighter. There was no laughter, no ease. Just efficiency. Lena noticed his distance immediately. "You've been distracted," she said one night as they sat across from each other in the dining room. "Is work overwhelming?" Ethan hesitated. "It's not work." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Then what is it?" He shook his head. "Nothing. Forget it." Lena smiled softly and let the conversation end. She had learned early that pressing too hard too soon created resistance. Patience was more effective. While she integrated herself into the household, I focused on strengthening my external position. I reconnected with professional contacts I had deprioritized during my marriage. I attended industry seminars. I spoke on panels. Slowly, deliberately, I reasserted my visibility. Nora watched all of this with quiet admiration. "You're not reacting emotionally," she said one evening. You're repositioning. That's the point, I replied. If I react, I lose leverage. Behind the scenes, information began to surface. Mutual acquaintances mentioned Lena's reputation, how she navigated influential families, how she specialized in making herself indispensable without appearing threatening. She was not impulsive. She was calculated. That confirmed my instincts. This wasn't personal. It was strategic. One afternoon, while reviewing reports at my desk, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. We need to talk. I know what's happening inside that house. My pulse quickened, but my response remained measured. Who is this? The reply came quickly. A friend. Someone who sees more than they should. Meet me tonight at the park near the North Tower. Nora frowned when I told her. Are you sure this is safe? I can't plan in the dark, I replied. I need information. That evening, I dressed neutrally, nothing that drew attention, nothing that made a statement. The park was quiet, the city lights reflecting off damp pavement from a recent drizzle. A man stepped forward from the shadows. Ilara, he asked quietly. Yes. My name is Julian, he said. I used to work with people connected to Lena's family. We sat on a bench, careful to keep distance. She's not impulsive, Julian continued. She's trained to navigate households with influence. She documents everything, conversations, reactions, vulnerabilities. Your absence created space for her to consolidate control. And Ethan? I asked. He avoids conflict. That makes him predictable. I absorbed every word. Julian leaned closer. If you act emotionally, she'll anticipate it. If you act strategically, she'll struggle to adapt. That night, I returned to Nora's apartment with renewed clarity. The game wasn't about confrontation. It was about timing. Meanwhile, tension quietly brewed at the duplex. Staff whispered about Lena's sharp remarks disguised as politeness. Emails disappeared from Ethan's inbox. Decisions were made before he felt fully informed. He noticed, but hesitated to challenge it. One evening, he confronted Lena in the study. You're managing things without telling me, he said. She looked up calmly from her laptop. I'm helping maintain order. Isn't that what you want? And what about what I want? She smiled gently. You want peace. I'm providing it. Her confidence unsettled him, but he lacked the resolve to push further. Back in the city, I continued observing. Social media. Professional circles. Subtle shifts in tone. Patterns emerged. Lena met with Mara regularly, always mid-morning, always privately. She positioned herself as indispensable, aligning herself with authority. Julian confirmed it. She reinforces Mara's control while appearing submissive. That's how she survives. I nodded. Then I won't challenge her authority directly. I prepared my first move carefully. I drafted a professional email to one of Ethan's key business partners, someone I had collaborated with extensively before being pushed out. The message was neutral, insightful, and value-driven. No personal references. No emotion. The reply came the next morning. They praised my insight, requested a meeting, asked politely why I was no longer involved. That mattered. At a board meeting later that week, my name surfaced casually. Her contributions were valuable, one partner remarked. We should involve her again. Lena heard about it from Mara. Her expression remained composed, but something shifted behind her eyes. At home, Mara frowned. Why is she still relevant? Lena responded smoothly. Professional relationships don't dissolve easily. For the first time, uncertainty crept in. Ethan noticed it too. Emails forwarded to him referenced my expertise. Suggestions aligned with strategies he trusted. Slowly, my influence re-entered his professional life. Quietly, unmistakably. One night, he stared at his screen long after Lena had gone to bed. Had he underestimated me? Meanwhile, I expanded my presence deliberately. Speaking engagements. Consultations. Strategic alliances. The narrative began to shift. I was no longer the wife who was replaced. I was a professional whose absence raised questions. Nora smiled when she saw the change. You're reclaiming space without stepping inside the house. That's the goal, I said. Influence doesn't need permission. Inside the duplex, Lena sensed pressure building. Came no, Ethan. Hesitated more often. Questioned decisions. Asked about emails she hadn't shared. You seem distant, she said one evening. I've been thinking, he replied. About how things happened. Her smile tightened slightly. Thinking doesn't change the past. No, he said. But it changes what comes next. That night, I received another message from Ethan himself. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long moment. This was inevitable, but I would not rush it. I replied simply, "When you're ready to listen." The balance had shifted. Lena felt it. Mara felt it. And most importantly, I felt it. This was no longer about reclaiming a place someone else had tried to erase. It was about demonstrating that I had never been powerless to begin with. The message from Ethan lingered on my screen longer than I expected. "Can we talk?" I had anticipated this moment for days, rehearsing responses in my head, weighing the consequences of every possible reaction. But anticipation and reality were different things. This wasn't just a conversation between a husband and a wife. It was the point where silence either collapsed into truth or hardened into permanent distance. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I finished my workday as usual. I closed files, sent emails, and attended one last meeting. Control, I reminded myself, came from composure. When I finally responded, my message was short and deliberate. "Tomorrow evening. Neutral place." His reply came almost instantly. "Thank you." That single word confirmed what I already knew. He was nervous. We met on the rooftop terrace of a quiet hotel overlooking the city. The space was public enough to prevent drama, private enough for honesty. The skyline stretched behind us, lights blinking like distant signals of opportunity and consequence. Ethan arrived first. He stood when he saw me, uncertain, restrained. "You look well," he said. "So do you," I replied, taking a seat across from him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt familiar, but no longer comfortable. "I owe you an apology," he finally said. "Not just for what happened, but for what I didn't do." I studied his face carefully. The hesitation, the guilt, the quiet fear of losing control. "You didn't just stay silent," I said calmly. "You allowed someone else to rewrite my place in your life." He nodded. "I thought avoiding conflict would keep things stable. I didn't realize it was erasing you." "That's the cost of silence," I said. "It always chooses a side." He exhaled slowly. "I see now how much you were holding together. At home. At work. I underestimated that." I didn't respond right away. Acknowledgement mattered, but timing mattered more. "I didn't come here to argue," I said. "And I didn't come to beg." "I know," he replied. "That's why I asked to meet." He told me about the unease in the house. The way decisions were being made without him. The way Lena positioned herself as indispensable while quietly reshaping everything. "She's efficient," he admitted. "But it feels transactional." "Because it is," I said. "Influence without loyalty always is." He looked at me, something shifting in his expression. "I didn't protect you." "No," I agreed. "But you're starting to understand why that mattered." We talked for nearly an hour. About control. About fear. About the ease of letting others decide when responsibility feels heavy. When we finally stood to leave, there was no resolution, only clarity. And clarity was enough. Back at the duplex, Lena noticed the change immediately. Ethan was quieter, more observant, less willing to accept explanations without question. He asked about meetings she scheduled, requested transparency she hadn't anticipated. "Is something wrong?" she asked one evening. "No," he replied. "I'm just paying attention now." The words unsettled her more than anger ever could. Mara sensed the shift as well. "You've become distant," she told Ethan sharply. "Is she influencing you again?" He met her gaze. "She never stopped influencing anything. I just stopped acknowledging it." Mara's lips tightened. "That woman disrupted order." "She maintained it," he corrected. "You just didn't like that it wasn't yours alone." Lena listened from the hallway, her composure intact but her calculations accelerating. The balance she had relied on was eroding. Meanwhile, I continued building my position externally. I accepted consulting invitations, expanded my network, spoke openly, professionally, about leadership, resilience, and strategic influence. My absence from the household had not diminished my relevance. It had amplified it. Julian provided updates quietly. "She's adjusting," he told me during one of our final meetings. But she didn't expect resistance from inside the house. "Neither did Mara," I replied. One evening, I received an email from Mara herself. "We need to talk." I considered it carefully before responding. "I agree." We met at the duplex. Walking back into that house felt different this time. The air was heavier, but no longer hostile. Controlled, but uncertain. Mara sat in the same chair where she had once dismissed me without hesitation. "You've changed things," she said bluntly. "I didn't intend to disrupt," I replied evenly. "I intended to reclaim my agency." You could have moved on, she said. You had opportunities. I still do, I answered. That was never the issue. She studied me for a long moment. Lena was meant to bring stability. She brought structure, I said. But structure without trust doesn't last. Mara exhaled slowly. For the first time, she looked unsure. You've always been capable, she admitted. Perhaps I underestimated how much. That's often the mistake, I said gently. Assuming quiet means weak. The conversation ended without apology, without reconciliation, but with recognition. That was enough. Lena watched from a distance as I moved through the house calmly, confidently. She said nothing, but when our eyes met, there was understanding there. Not hostility, not defeat, acceptance. Within weeks, the household settled into a new equilibrium. Lena stepped back gracefully, her influence diminishing without spectacle. Mara loosened her grip, recognizing that control was not absolute. Ethan, finally aware of the cost of passivity, engaged fully, at home and in his decisions. As for me, I didn't reclaim my place through confrontation. I reclaimed it through presence, through competence, through the undeniable proof that I had never been replaceable, only temporarily ignored. One evening, Ethan joined me on the balcony as city lights flickered below. You taught me something, he said quietly. What's that? I asked. That strength doesn't announce itself, he replied. It waits until it's undeniable. I smiled, not in triumph, but in peace. The storm had passed. Not because someone surrendered, but because balance was restored. And as I looked out at the city, alive with possibility, I knew this story wasn't just about marriage or displacement or power. It was about knowing your worth and never allowing silence to erase it. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tap the bell so you never miss a new story, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps these stories reach people who need reminders of their strength, and sharing it might help someone reclaim their own.